Hello everyone. Subha Sandhya. Welcome to our Sunday meeting today at on 11th February. And today's speaker is a very special guest, as well as it's an honor for us to listen to him on a topic that is very surprising, but I think we will learn a lot from that topic about Sri Lanka's crisis, which is not a surprise to me, which explains quite a lot about the speaker's value and the worldwide knowledge he has. But just before that, I will just take 3 minutes just to update what we are doing at the moment. And I must thank Professor Dharmadasa and Gratian Pires taking the initiative to visit Upalikatam. Professor Dharmadasa is on a mission to establish two more solar villages in Sri Lanka. But during that time, he took time to go and visit Upalikatam, and we've introduced Upali some time ago as a very innovative carpenter in Sri Lanka who is struggling to some extent achieve recognition. And you can see in this picture, Professor Dharmadasa is here, and Upal is here, and Gratian there. So they visited, and just to give a taste of what kind of carpentry that we are talking about, these are some of their innovations of carpentry in Sri Lanka in Variapola, which is a rural area. And I must have to point out that none of these are polished or painted. These are actually various special wood with its own color that's engraved into a plate. And these things are very tiny. They slice it to a very tiny level and then paste them all onto that to create various graphics. And it's really important. The purpose of visit was something that we are trying to innovate, innovate Sri Lankan style people, and that help is what we are trying to do. And here, Brother Dandas also, and we have been trying to get, he's got some patents, but to patent his work, and also have how to help international market and international access. So the current visit this time round was to try and help him to access international market. I'm glad to say someone from Los Angeles, I think, has agreed to collaborate in this context. So I hope well best wishes for him and his son, who is now leading this activity. Then the next one is Soraya Dean. Soraya Dean is from US, and she is now at the moment in Kandy, and she is trying to entertain a project here now in Panapitia to create a hybrid learning room through a donation. And there are three principals involved. These names are there, who's created a proposal, and this has been evaluated at the moment. 0.5 million rupees donation has become available to develop this room. So I hope that will become a reality for the benefit of younger children to reach international kind of standards. Then thirdly, I must say we prepared an ideal manifesto for a presidential candidate. And we are at the moment working on English versions and also trying to develop Sinhala versions and Tamil versions, both the full version as well as the summary version. And we are also linking it to a public consult. So all this work is happening at the moment. And I think we'll be able to get the English versions out within the next 2-3 days and with a link for the public consult. So that will happen very soon, and then the others will follow. And thank you for everybody who is supporting me in developing this document, which I think will be an eye-opener and educator for everyone in Sri Lanka, so that see how to come out of the deep trouble that we have. So thank you all. And then beyond that, now today is my duty to introduce Reverend Dato Dr. Sumana Siri. He is in the audience and he will speak shortly. And I think I've posted a couple of videos earlier on as well. Um, about his talk. And this talk is also recorded and will be published the usual way, so it's accessible to anybody in Sri Lanka or wherever. So he's also a medical consultant. And welcome and Ayubowan, Reverend Dato Sumana Siri. The platform is yours here. I can't hear you. I think you're still muted.
Okay, sisters and brothers, ladies and gentlemen as well, because this is not a sermon, we intend to enter into dialogue, and please feel free to speak up your mind without any what we call preconceived notions, and let us not be biased and be faithful to the subject that we want to discuss today. Because most of you are Sri Lankans. I'm Sinhalese, but I'm born back in Singapore. My grandfather migrated more than 100 years ago, and we are 5 generations. I am the 3rd generation in that line. So Sri Lanka is in a crisis. This is known all over the place. It's not a happy thing to know or to understand or to experience. We all want to be happy and live in a life with less conflict. Life itself is a conflict, but then we try to reduce all that, and that is what we call happiness, that we aspire from understanding Buddhism. We understand that Buddhism as a religion is almost unique in being the religion that examines and seeks to understand that which perceives not only the divine and the transcendent, but also all experiences, and then guide it through the practice. That which perceives is the mind itself. In Buddhism, the mind requires a body to function. No mind can exist without a body, and no body can exist without a mind. In the view that a body exists without a mind, religion becomes irrelevant. So the mind-body connection is normally what we see and try to understand in whatever perspective we want to read. All religions have a part to play in conflict and reconciliation, both within the individual and society. Repentance, strengthening the capacity for forgiveness, acknowledgement of personal blame, along with the emphasis on brotherly love, the desire for reconciliation and goodwill towards all are just some of the many riches that religion as a cultural creation offers human beings. Religion is, however, too, not often ill will. It's used as a means of identity that fragments and causes animosity can be there to see. This can be said to not only for communities or countries, but for individuals as well, especially where nationalism mixed with religion, identity becomes a problem. It creates a deeply cocktail toxic, blind, and absolute. Patriotism and love of country can be a boon if it is a true love and devotion which does not fail to be critical and supportive, as we are with those we love. We fail to be critical and supportive. And therefore, within the contemplative community of religion, we need to understand from a wider perspective of having a perception. So that is by way of introduction of how I'm going to look at this position, fully detached by general misunderstanding or even bad experiences that we have faced, I myself too, in Sri Lankan experience. uh, I became a monk 6 years ago, and I was taken to Sri Lanka for training, and I remained in Sri Lanka for 15 years to study, to learn, to practice. Widely, I studied in 5 universities and have passed exams and given titles by 7 universities. So I have read the Buddhist philosophy special and also read law in London University, Christian theology in Oxford University as a postgraduate. I hold 3 doctorates, 4 medical degrees. That is for basic line for you to understand. And at the age of 70, last year, I did public policy analysis in the London School of Economics and Political Science, first Buddhist monk to get into LSE. And I was also the first Buddhist monk to enter into the Oxford University Christian Theology faculty and to earn theological postgraduate qualification in the field of applied theology. Yeah. I read widely. I have traveled to 68 countries in the world to speak, especially the Dhamma, but not only as a monk, as a scholar in sociology, history of Asia, comparative religion, and current affairs, which involves all these crises in the world. My next project will be to write doctorate on conflict resolution. That is my way of introduction. Now coming to the topic directly, I want to quote something which some of you may not be familiar with. Now, Sri Lanka has this chronicle. You know the Mahavansa and Deepavansa. Mahavansa is written by Venerable Mahanava. The problem we see in the history that the crisis has always been there. The Mahavansa is something which is done by Venerable Mahanava on hearsay. So there are defects and wrong interpretations as well. And both Mahavansa and Deepavansa are silent that Buddhism flourished in South India. We all like to relate to North India, and we neglect South India. South India was also under the purview and rule of Emperor Ashoka. So Buddhism flourished in South India. We must not have any prejudice in understanding it, nor should we have bias, or should we keep a historical hatred towards South India, whether they are Tamil or whether they are Telugu or whether they are Malayalam. Buddhism has flourished in all these places very well. Like one of the examples is the book by Sri Venkadaswamy that is called in Tamil Bauddhamum Kalimum. That means Buddhism and Tamil literature. Now these are not mentioned at all. Yeah. The impact of Buddhism in South India, the earliest book is called Purana Nuru, which mentions about the Sri Jataka, when the Buddha, Gautama Buddha has a bodhisattva where he donates his cornea for a blind person. So that is the earlier part, but the most popular and famous story, the impact of Sira Padikaram Manidekalai, which is written relating to a bhikkhuni, a Tamil, a story, a drama, and a very famous book in Indian literature. Then again, Emperor Ashoka's inscription in the 2nd century Christian era, one of the inscriptions reads like this: "The merciful emperor endorses with favors from God arrangements for medical facilities for human beings and animals." We know that Emperor Ashoka built even hospitals for animals. So at that, this book says, inscription was in Sola. Sola is the Tamil area, and Kera is Kerala, and another part, Andhra, South India, and it says Ceylon. The old word for Ceylon was Lanka. There was no Sri. Now you use Sri, but I'm doubtful that it is so Sri as such. So, it also mentions that Emperor Ashoka had good connection with the Greek kings, and he also held the kingdom of Greek kings called Antiochus. There is another inscription near Peshawar, which is in Pakistan. I've been to Pakistan a few times and done a lot of research on the ancient Buddhist art and architecture made by the Greek Buddhist diaspora. There were 3 kings, Buddhist kings, of whom one was King Milander, which you say Milinda in Pali, and Milindu in Igadi. So there, in that inscription, it is written, Buddhist missions of Ashoka mentioned Sola, Pandya, and Ceylon in the year BC 258. And that Buddhism, introduced by Venerable Mahinda before coming to Ceylon or Sri Lanka, he himself came to Kaveri Pattam, which is in Tamil Nadu. And he stayed there in a monastery called Indra Vihara. So if you read the book called Buddhism in South India, a small tiny book, a wheel publication from Kendi Buddhist Publication Society, written by Venerable Vichayadev Dhammaratana Mahatera in 1968, far way back. When I was a young monk in Sri Lanka, I used to read all this. So that is another important part that history shows the connection was there, but because of prejudice and hatred, we also have to talk about that section now. So coming back to experience in Sri Lanka, I was there 15 years, and I left the country because my parents said, no, it is paradise. But when I went, it was not paradise. Yeah, it was quite paralyzed. The important point is I stayed there and studied and read the country very well for 15.5 years. I came back very disheartened. Yeah. There are a lot of what you call disruptors in society. Basically, we look at this very sympathetically as human weaknesses. But the problem is that in the system of Sri Lanka, after 1977, it seems globalization has created and accelerated very badly into the body politic of the country and the people and changed a big mindset. So for instance, before 1977, you had members of parliament, about 20 of them, who were independent and without links to any political party. That independent type of brand is no more there. all are politically highly connected and very obedient to their parties. Whatever they can grab and get, politics is done as clear lines and just gas and make certain things very corrupted. Coming from Singapore, a country where corruption is almost zero, this shocked me. I had a culture shock when I came to Sri Lanka to study. And it's all over the place. From the main politicians, from the prime minister, from the president, the ministers, and even, unfortunately, among the Mr. Sangha. They are also sons of those people, no? They did come from heaven. So it has an impact on them as well. So we need to see from a wider perspective why this mega greed. Because the Buddha says suffering comes because we are all based on greed. Natural greed is understood, but to have mega greed, which is considered a mental, sinful action, it's a terrible thing. If we don't mention names and look into the recent history, I'm not surprised that Sri Lanka has become bankrupt. In fact, I expected it to become bankrupt years ago when I was there. But it has been taken care by some divine intervention or nature's law that it has carried on thus far. We all noticed in 1971 how the Tamil Tigers started. We don't support terrorists, whether they are Tamil or state terrorism, whether they are Sinhalese or Muslims. We would only support human beings as they are. Because today you can be born Sinhalese, next time you can be born in Timbuktu or in Jaffna or in Arabia. That is the law of Amma and Rebel. It takes you where accepted. Be careful when you have so much hatred towards a particular race, whether Sinhalese towards the Tamil or Tamil towards the Sinhalese. It is called Hasim the Kappa, that which can come in your time of dying, and then you can be born in your race of identity. Easily, extremists can be born in Tamil. A Tamil terrorist and extremist also who has hatred towards the Sinhalese has been born as a Sinhalese. The same goes to the race because Kamma makes wonderful words, as you do, so you reap. Actually, this is the law of nature. And the Buddha has used it and given the term Kamma for people to understand. So these are some of the basic things that I wanted to say. I watched very carefully, being a realist myself, a Buddhist realist, that's how I call myself, after learning Buddhism for the last 6 years. So I've been a monk for 6 years. This August, I will be celebrating my 60th monthhood anniversary. I say this because I relate my life to my work, to religion, to Buddhism, to communities, whether they are Sinhalese or Tamil or Muslim. My second language is Chinese, and I speak 3 dialects in Chinese, so that I could reach people more and more in my celebration. I'm very happy about it. I'm happy to talk to you because to tell you how I feel about all this as well. Because you and me, we are all part and parcel of one humanity. That the Buddha says, you can see different species among animals and plants, fauna and flora. But the human being is indivisible. You can't divide. This is belonging to this race or that race. That is why in Singapore, we don't say we are Singapore Sinhalese, but normally we say we are Singaporean. Sri Lanka has not got that kind of culture to say we are Sri Lankan people. Understand? That's why it's a problem of tribal nature that we cling to a race which we are born in today and think of my race, this is the supreme one. That majority power is the might, that right is not the might. So these are weaknesses that you have to address when you look at the history of Sri Lanka in the last 76 years. Now, say for instance, at that time the British gave Sri Lanka in 1948 because India became independent. So they thought Sri Lanka also should get. But the term given was not Ceylon. It was called the British domain of Ceylon. Because after 48 also, you kept writing Utumbu Maharajina until you became republic. You are not a totally free country. That was good because of the good offices of Mrs. SWRP Bandaranaike, Irmao Bandaranaike, and also one of the Sri Lankan best lawyers and constitutional experts, Dr. Colvin R. De Silva, who wrote the Constitution of Sri Lanka. He didn't say Sri Lanka is a Buddhist state. There was no state of religion. Sri Lanka remained, and Sri Lanka is a non-religious country by constitution. We say Adagamika, Agamakin Surava, but it is given the prominence. Sri Lanka, Bauddha, Buddha, you give the prominent place, but doesn't mean you are making Sri Lanka a Buddhist kingdom, a state religion, like an Islamic state, which is controlled by religion. No country should follow one religion and make it their state religion when there are minorities living who are also considerably working for that particular country. And this is what we have conquered in Singapore. We don't go by race. We don't go by religion. We go as human beings, as equal citizens in our deliberations. So there are a lot of things that Sri Lanka can learn from Singapore. Many of your prime ministers, presidents come, but they don't learn. They just come to business or see their terrorist friends in the Singapore hospital or in prison and just go back. So these are the basic problems. Another important factor for the development of Singapore to become the fifth richest country today in the world, it was just a Piccadilly island 100 years ago. We are proud and happy that the British came and gave us infrastructure and we provided that system, and we have gone even beyond the British in our economics, in our not being corrupted, in not having racism or religious extremism. We rate Singapore as like 6 times more developed than the United States. You might ask me then why I'm here. I'm here because English is my first language, to give the noble message of the Buddha to many English and non-Sinhalese people, while the bulk of my devotees are Sinhalese. A race is not what is important for me. The human being is what is important for me. In Singapore, you don't strike. You can't strike against this and that. It is considered a wastage of time. They say you rather work. So strikes are not found in Singapore. If you strike, those foreigners who came and strike, they were sent home the next week. They don't keep strike distraction. They should be honest, you left the country, work for the country. Just mere human rights cannot run a country. Because in Europe, we face a big problem because of human rights. We have many refugees coming and even died on the way in boats in the sea. And they give their kittens and some, they come to a European country, paradise, and they will be liberated. This has created more disruption in the European continent, whether it is United Kingdom or France or Italy and many other states where others have come in and created problems to the people who are born and bred there for the country. So therefore, we must not abuse. Human trafficking has become a big issue. So sometimes we have many Sinhalese or Tamils leaving Sri Lanka and they also use this system. When as Commonwealth, they have some facilities to come compared to many others, more access to come to the United Kingdom. But human trafficking makes things for them faster and easier and they get involved in all these situations. So if Sri Lanka is good, why do they have to come to Europe or America or other places? Life is a story of migration. That is a different detail. But why do we need all this? Because the dissatisfaction is the country of birth. So therefore, we need to be careful not to be racist, to understand the others as your brothers and sisters and live as one family. Now, in my own immediate family circle, I have 3 Muslim in-laws. I have 1 Tamil sister-in-law. I have a Portuguese adopted brother. I have a Japanese Dutch mixed adopted sister. We all live like, good Singaporeans in a family. Yeah. And my eldest sister's son was married to a Jewish guy. They are in America. So we have no bias by race or by religion. But more, you have another problem of caste system in Sri Lanka. This is against Buddhism. Buddha said all the rivers go and get to the ocean and get one name. We are all sons of Buddha Putras, sons of the Buddha. Nuns are sons of the sisters of the Buddha. So women's liberation for the women to become equal to Sri Lanka is very backward. India had to take the initiation again, and we helped in 1987 to create the liberation, the re-establishment at the Bhikkhuni Sasana. And now just taken ground, but not at the state level in Sri Lanka. Because they fear that the monks who are orthodox might go against it. So these are very simple things that we have forgotten. That Buddha has given, he was the father of women's liberation. That freedom he has given, we are denying them, which is very bad. So therefore, we need to understand how we can overcome racism, tribalism, religious extremism, not to give women their rights. Because whether you are man or woman, you go to Nibbana by the same vehicle. That is the very word of our all-compassionate leader, the all-awakened one. I watched the 1971 situation in Sri Lanka as a young man. was a very pathetic beginning. And those elements have created a lot of disruption. So that is why even in the 1971 insurrection, many of the leaders left the movement. I have been in touch with some of them as friends really, and we talk about pluralism. We must make transformation. Knowing all this is not enough and being happy and satisfied for ourselves. We need to understand that all these things that we take as information must make the necessary transformation. In the world of information technology, Buddhism is transformation technology. We must transform the bad person into a good person, the extremist into a lovable person, the person who is ignorant to a person with wisdom. The bad person is transformed to an ethical, moral, non-corrupted person, including politicians. But don't always wait for the politicians only to lead the country, or why the monks are not doing their job, you say. But when the monks are involved, then you are worried. So therefore, think of your responsibility as citizens who love your country, so that you can get rid of those crises that you are having and come to a better situation. Simply protesting, simply going on strike can never help a country. The burning of public property, government property, these are all very cruel things, not in line with the noble teachings of the Buddha. The other point was what I noticed, many Sri Lankans are lazy. Now, because of globalization since 1977, they have become highly business-minded. You think cash is king? It is not. Cash is a means towards an end, not the end by itself. Health is wealth, wealth is health. If they understand basic Buddhism and try to implement, they won't be bankrupt like this today. So, I am not surprised that they became bankrupt just recently. And they are facing great difficulties because of China. We are Chinese culture followers because 73% people in Singapore are Chinese. So that's my second language, and I speak 3 dialects in Chinese. But these Chinese are not communist China. Communist China helped Sri Lanka during Mr. Bandaranaike's time. And also, they were in favor of doing it. But charity begins at home. Don't expect China to be charitable to you, because they have already stripped very poor countries and taken their land, their airports, their oil fields, and all that. Yes. I have a connection with the China President's inner circle because I speak Chinese and I have used the China like 10 times in the last 20, 30 years. Yeah. So therefore, it's very important for the rulers of Sri Lanka, whatever party they are or whatever race they belong to, that they work with vigilance and be totally aware, to have that mindfulness and awareness, which meditation tells us to do, to be calm, cool, and collected. When you have a wonderful dharma like Buddhism, when you have a wonderful dharma like Hinduism, when you have a wonderful dharma like Christianity, or even Islam to that extent, why don't we all be good, ethical, and moral citizens and help to run the country? Why do we need to cling to our religion and be dogmatic? That is why the Buddha told us, don't be attached even to the number. Because this is, attachment is an obstacle to make a rightful judgment as to whether this is right or wrong, whether this is good or bad, whether this is proper or improper. We need to be having total mindfulness in whatever we do, physically, vocally, whatever we speak, and whatever we think. The mega greed question which I mentioned earlier, the greed is power. Basically, we are all based on greed. Udo, loco, akitto, tadha, dasa. The problem is the Buddha says that basic greed is understood which you can give up and become generous. It's not only food, but many other things. Yeah. You must be able to give up your wrong views as well. And when you have mega greed, you want to be in power forever, and then you see the president run away to Singapore and asking refuse these places. Singapore don't accept refugees. It was very painful, and the president coming to Singapore and asking the government, can you be refugee status? Singapore don't sign to that United Nations Charter because they have a small country, they have to take care of themselves, and they don't want disruption, especially from big politicians who come from corrupted countries. I have boycotted Sri Lanka for 28 years, and I had to go sometime so I went. But I didn't go for the last 15 years. Because even in the department ministry of the Prime Minister, who was Dimu Jayaratne, my last friend, they even cheated me. I was told by Rajita Seraratne that because I was celebrating my 50th Bakut anniversary, so the Prime Minister's department can pay for the tea and coffee because you are a Buddhist man and because you are Sinhalese, and go and ask them. I was a little bit foolish to go and ask them, and finally I had to pay from my own pocket 40,000 rupees, which is a lot of money for me, because I'm not a wage earner. Yeah, though I'm qualified for different fields, and there are jobs I've been asked to come and be a professor or assistant professor. I have worked for the last 6 years as a Buddhist monk, a full-time volunteer service in 68 countries. This is the kind of charity, parityaga, giving up that we do. We become monks not to get more, not to be greedy for money, for power, for fame, and all that. If you are understanding the Buddha's loving kindness, compassion, equanimity, and sympathetic joy, metta, karuna, mudita, upekka, you don't be greedy like that. You can be satisfied from what you get. It doesn't mean you cannot develop. You must develop yourself professionally. Because to be ahead is the way to progress. Buddhism doesn't believe in the saying that poverty is beauty. Then we must understand the resources of a country to take care of what people you have. You are island nations. When you give part of your land to a particular country, whether it's India or China, when you give your port, what will you be left with? In Singapore, we reclaim the sea and we reclaim the country and we have changed the map by making more land to build more houses. Long, long ago, in Singapore, it was one family tree style only. But today we need more, so we can have more. Even China hates the one-child policy. Now, that kind of development ideas, Sri Lankan people don't entertain. Yes. So we have to be very careful not to be based on racism or religious extremism or casteism or any kind of things that make us violent and not a vibrant country with sound economics and good ethics and morals. We may not have a perfect situation, but you need to improve. There's always room to improve. There are good people. There are people who are ethical, moral, but they don't see the wider perspective of the world. They are unable to give a challenge to the establishment to make things. Because democracy is not the best way of ruling. Singapore has a benevolent dictatorship. The emperor, the ruler, does everything important so that we can carry on as honorable citizens and honest citizens and carry on our work. So it's very important to take and learn lessons from anybody. Even the Venerable Sariputta, the chief disciple of the Buddha, one day when his robe was being dragged on the floor, a young monk showed it to him, and he said, Sadhu, Sadhu, have you Guru Rata Gandhi with his disciple? Humility, being humble should be the way. Unnecessary pride comes because you don't understand humanity from the basket of humanity. So therefore, it's incumbent on people who wants to have reconciliation and less conflict to understand how the Buddha looked at this issue. What did you do in the war? I was in China that time during the war at one time. And I see a minister, not the health minister, minister of defense, or minister of some other subject, going there to buy weapons. So this is not the way. The relevant minister should go there and get the necessary thing. And when you give weapons to the terrorists to face the Indian army, what happens? It's obvious. Mr. Premadasa's work, the same weapons they use on the Sri Lankan army. So we have to understand those who stand by the sword will be perished by the sword. These are great sayings, whether they come from the Bible, or whether they come from the Jewish Torah, or whether it comes from the Quran, whether it comes from the Guru Granth Sahib of the Sikhs. You need to learn more. Education is meant for that kind of discipline. Education is not meant just as a capital to become rich only, or just to become powerful only in knowledge. Knowledge and practice, that which is given in the testing of time to understand with calmness so that we can then get green field. We should become calm, cool, and collected. Then only you have unity. Unity is strength. United, you stand. Divided, you fall. I think basically now I will stop here for a little while, and we may be entering into a dialogue, a question and answer, and we can carry on a little later.
Reverend Dato, I'm so grateful and admiring your talk today, and your background is extremely rare. I don't think anybody will have that background coming from Singapore, living in Sri Lanka, going into several universities, and being a Buddhist monk and doing Christianity in your postgraduate studies. So you got a huge experience which you can share, which what we are doing as well. We are called leads, although it's called leads, it's actually learning and educate to help people decide. That's what we are doing. But the forum in here today is from, you can see some of them actually 2, 3 o'clock in the morning in Australia to the very late at night in USA. So all people who are interested here are actually trying to bring a new vision for Sri Lanka to recover. That's what we are trying to do. And I can only welcome you to join, listen to what we're doing, and come and talk to us whenever you feel like that you can give some vision sharing so that we get directed to a correct path. So we'll have a short Q&A session, and I will allow people will raise hands, and then we can take it from there. And thank you for your commitment today for this talk. Sorry about the technical faults. In the future, I will try to sort this out in a different way, and then we can talk. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, and the audience obviously can take any questions now. Thank you. Gratian, you want to ask a question? Anybody
I
else?
have a question.
Yeah.
Say basically Singapore is a secular state, and they have developed ethical system based on secular values, and they seems to be doing quite well, as you mentioned in your presentation. And we in Sri Lanka, we have our our ethics is governed by Buddhist philosophy basically. And of course, we have in the constitution also the first place should be given to Buddhism, first and foremost place. And in spite of all the emphasis, we have greed, we have corruption, and we had war for 26 years based on ethnicity. And then, of course, we had the economic downfall in a couple of years ago. So it doesn't seem to match in the sense there we have a secular state with secular values and very materialistic and down to earth, and we have a developed country. And here we have spiritual, ethical, or religious country, and we have messed up. So, can you comment on that?
Now, the important thing is not just electing people into parliament, especially when you know they're corrupt. And some Sri Lankans say, why not we give to the JVP now to see how we can run this? As a radical country for good governance, it's not just like little children playing, giving a chance to somebody just to run. You must get qualified people. Like, look at Pakistan. You cannot be a member of parliament if you do not have university qualification. But you have a lot of corrupted people who are chosen by the people and sent to parliament, whose interest is only to make money and to bring oppression to those who are at the lower section of society. So the democratic system, as Churchill said, is not a perfect system. You listen to every person, you know what happened to the father, son, and the donkey. They listen to everybody. That is democracy. Democracy won't work for Sri Lanka. But that doesn't mean you must have a dictatorship totally. No. You must have a benevolent dictatorship like Singapore. Singapore learned from the others. We took the Swiss model in 1959 We developed the country in a matter of 5-6 years. We are all same human beings. Why can't you do that? You have golden brains, Ratran Muller, and all that. And still, even Ratran Muller has to lose his election one time, Dr. Anders Pereira. You don't give the right person the right thing. That's the problem. So, what is important is not which party a person belongs to. And remember what Dr. Anders Pereira predicted in the 1930s, when he said, because of the language problem, you want two countries or united one country. Yeah. These are very important statements. Not just because it is Anders Pereira. Like me, I'm also a LSE alumnus at the age of 70. It's important thing. It's not just say we are Buddhist or we are following ethics. Very little ethics. Very little ethics. There are a lot of shows they show to the public, but the inner being is not so much as such. There are good people, but they are not given the allowance. And the struggle for power is more than the letting go of heat to mega power. Yeah. This is basically what I have experienced by staying in Sri Lanka 15 years and staying outside, especially during the war period from 1983. I did go for 28 years. It's not good going because how can one ask the president to go to war? When you say verbally at the past, you lose your manhood, parajita. You understand? It's because the life principle of everybody is important. Because a life is the one that can make you become a bodhisattva, that you can become an enlightened being. To create war, monks are not supposed to ask or to be a party of asking for a war. We are advised by the Buddha, don't even tell a old person when he's suffering, it is better you die. When you use your verbal action, what we come and say that your manhood is right. You have broken one of the four great precepts in life. The first precept, not to kill. You understand? Because of this killing and war, it's not only the terrorists who die. It's not only the ministers who are being bombed and killed. Other people, pets and dogs, whether you are Muslim or Buddhist or Tamil or Hindu or people with different races and religions, or tourists, burning of churches, by goodness, bombing churches. Unbelievable. It doesn't happen in Singapore. Singapore follows the pragmatism of Confucianism and Buddhism. Look what you have declared that he is a Buddhist. Look what his father and my father, they were colleagues. And his son, my age, is the Prime Minister today. And he tells us how he created a presidency we did not have before. The president was always elected by parliament. Then one day they thought, no, we must put it to election. And they did that. And now, third generation Tamil born in Sri Lanka, he couldn't do anything in Sri Lanka as minorities because what we as minorities do in Singapore, Malaysia, the minorities in Sri Lanka are not treated like that. I have seen that because the language, signboard sometimes only in English, and then they suffer. So we must be equitable, we must think in terms of equality for everybody to see that we can share the piece of cake, not just we are the majority and we oppress the minority. That's not Buddhism.
Yeah, thank you. Jivananda, you have raised the hand as well.
Thank you very much, Bante. It's a very interesting talk. I agree 100% with everything that you said. I have a philosophical question for you. I am of the opinion that Buddhism and what the Buddha taught, or the Dhamma, are two different things. Buddhism has the Dhamma has transformed into Buddhism. And the Buddhism that's in Sri Lanka today has become a hindrance to the unity and the development of the country. So do you think that the Buddhism that we have in Sri Lanka is different from what the Buddha taught? Thank you.
Of course, to a large extent, it is so. Jivananda, what you said is correct. Yeah. The perception of the people, that is why the Buddha says in the first point, you must have Samma Ditti. You must have the right vision, the right perception, the right understanding. If you begin with the wrong understanding, it is like catching the snake, the Buddha says, from the tail, not from the head. And then therefore, we must know how to understand the Buddha Dhamma well. Now the problem is not with Buddhism. The problem is Sri Lankan Buddhist perception. It's human beings' perception. There's nothing wrong with Buddhism. It's a perfect system which the Buddha has for years practiced and gained enlightenment and preached for 45 years. Why are some Christian countries Jesus preached only for 3 years? The Buddha preached for 45 years. I've been preaching for 6 years. From the day I became a young monk, I preached. But why can't people follow this? Or they don't want to follow? Yeah. So you must have, like in 1971, those who took the resurrection and tried to create a problem in the insurgency of the JVP, they all went to Dhanpasana. But the thing didn't go into their heart. It's just only reading and repeating. So the real pure Buddhism must be given in a very effective way. Today you have information systems and media very developed. A lot of people listen to the Dhamma, but they don't practice, they don't follow. So what you say is correct. The Buddhism of Sri Lanka that they practice is not the Dhamma of the Buddha. But there are those people who are not so organized, but they do themselves in their private capacity within the temples and the places. We must not forget them.
Thank you. Anybody else with questions? Reverend Dato, I think it's been a wonderful session, and we are still digesting, I think, what you said, because you got such a huge background experience that actually helps us kind of find the root causes of our downfall in Sri Lanka. So my only invitation is that you participate in the future with us as well, and help us, say, even in small topics, how to achieve a certain target. I mean, we talked about before about interfaith harmony, we've talked about intercommunal harmony, we've talked about equality, human rights, how to get there. So we are trying to get this done, but I know it's a very difficult task, but we are trying. But the knowledge you have, particularly with the Singaporean background, many countries in West, with the Chinese dialect, with the links to the East, I think it's the balance we need to understand. So for our own well-being as a country. So thank you very much for joining today. Are there any other questions or comments? Because I'm going to invite Reverend again in the future, because we have so much to learn from him. Anything else?
Maybe I have some sort of academic question which Reverend touched on. It's basically the South Indian Buddhist. I asked this question because, say, visiting Tiriyaya, there is Hiriharuda Saya, and there's also mention of Tapassu and Balluka visiting this area. And close to that is a museum where I found Avalokitesvara, statues of Avalokitesvara and Tara Devi, which comes from Mahayana. So there seems to have been Mahayana influence at that time. And then, of course, before Kandyan period, again, we have Avalokitesvara transforming into Buddhist usage, especially in Kandyan era. And coming from Singapore, you must be having a lot of Mahayana Buddhists, Chinese, and how do we sort of see development in Mahayana Buddhism compared to development in Theravada Buddhism, because the approach is something like Catholic and Protestant. One is very ascetic, the other one looks into more real life situation in the world as it is. Can you say something about that?
Yes, why not? Yes. Why do we need to divide ourselves? The Buddha is not Mahayana. The Buddha is not Theravada. The Buddha never used the word Theravada. And I'm not a Theravada monk. I'm just a Buddhist monk. So whether it's Mahayana or Theravada, if you are following the original teachings of the Buddha, you have no problem at all. When you divide to certain groups, it's again our tribal nature coming from our ancient prehistoric times. We are actually tribal people. It's not good to divide. You blame the British for divide and rule, but you keep dividing yourself and you don't rule yourself. Theravada Buddhism is not perfect. The Buddha's Dhamma is the one which is perfect. Because Theravada is influenced by other kinds of religion and versions, and this is not by Arahants always. Sometimes they were very low quality people who added books into the teachings at the tradition. And we don't have antagonism in Singapore, whether we are, not all Chinese are Mahayana Buddhists. The majority Chinese Buddhists in Singapore are Theravada, or they follow original Buddhism. And they don't call themselves, we are Theravada or we are Mahayana. Yeah. They go to both places and they practice the Dhamma of the Buddha. They listen. And this is how we are having very good Buddhist temples run by Theravada monks, as they call themselves. But the Buddha was never Theravada. All Vadas, ideologies, are self-contradictory. We don't want Vada. We want to have dialogue. We want to have understanding. We want to be united.
Thank you very much. I think that's absolutely true what you're saying. Dhamma is perfect and not the Vadas. That's true. Gracian, yes, Gracian.
Yeah, Dato, thank you very much. Is there a thing called Singaporean nationality, and where does that come from?
Singaporean. It is not
Sorry?
just Singapore. We call ourselves Singaporean. We don't say we are
Yeah.
Singaporean singly. No, we don't.
No,
say
I mean,
Singaporean.
yeah. So when you have that Singaporean identity, then where does it come from? Is it coming from the people, and has it been embraced by the people, or is it being maintained by the mechanisms and the pressure from the government? And in the Singaporean identity, what are the values?
The government is not a separate entity. They have compassion for the people, and their pragmatism is understanding Buddhism is greater. 42% of Singaporeans are Buddhists. And the government is giving them secular ethics based on reason, sound judgment, equality, and to make your own conclusion. And they always elected the same government. Why? Because the government is not. It is not corrupted. That's the reason. When Sri Lankans don't think themselves as one race as Sri Lankans, you will always have the problem. As long as racism is there, Sri Lanka will never develop. It can be much more, what we have become now, bankrupt. Yeah. Your bankruptcy can carry on for generations.
I think, thank you all. We've had very good insight into what you have put on the table today, Reverend. And I'm so honored and glad that we managed to get you on our platform to talk a little bit. And I hope you will join in the future to direct us and teach us from your vast experience as to how to direct ourselves. So far, as you summarize, our paradise is paralyzed, and we'll have to promote humanity to come out of it. And that's what we are pursuing through this platform of education. So there's more work that's happening. I'll keep in touch in the future. Any last comments anybody wants to make? No, I think they're all quite happy for the moment. And thank you so much. And I will send the link for the recording in a short while. Thank you.
So if there are no questions, and we can stop and carry on next time, I wish all of you will deliberate on what I have said and to be serious to make the country and to inform. Don't just keep it to yourself. Because the Dharma, the truth must be known. You have to know it and you have to make it known. Because the Buddha preached the Dharma, then people knew the Dharma. So likewise, you need to express to your politicians that there are views like this on how we can come out from the quagmire of racism and religious extremism and all that, and have harmonious society. Learn from others if you can't learn from your own self. Thank you very much. Namo Buddhaya.
Thank you. Good night for everybody. And Reverend again, sadhu.
It is very good.